journey through Sig Daddy's mind on Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. Here's Sig Daddy.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Sig Daddy, and today will mark my first episode of my new series, The Week in Review. This series is going to be more so about the week in review, really, up until AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. So I'll be covering on this series, it will be Monday Night Raw, NWA Powerrr, and also AEW Dynamite. I'll give you my take and my personal thoughts on each of those shows every week. Can't do SmackDown currently, just don't have the time, and my job keeps me from being able to watch Friday Night SmackDown, but I'll give you 3 shows that I've watched during the week, and I'll give you my take on those, review, and kind of just give me my overall thoughts, really. And then I'll throw news in here and there on this show. But let's get down to business. This week started out with Monday Night Raw. I thought it was an alright show. Started pretty hot with the opener with Drew McIntyre. Finally get to see his return, taking on Ricochet. And that was a pretty enjoyable match. Drew McIntyre being added to the Ric Flair's team for Crown Jewel. That will probably not be a very good pay-per-view, but hopefully he gets some shine, and hopefully he gets the push that they're reporting he's going to get here. He's been getting a lot of stop and start pushes here recently, so I hope he gets the full-on real push for once. So yeah, and then also on that show, it was Aleister Black against just some random dude. And it was a squash match. I'm not really into Aleister Black getting squash matches here and there. It's just, they just kind of destroyed him on SmackDown by just having him talk all the time and not just having him kick butt. It's kind of disappointing. And they're still having him wrestle squash matches at this point. Is he going to turn into the Viking Raiders here? And speaking of the Viking Raiders, on this show, it was the Viking Raiders versus Ryder and Hawkins after they won the titles last week, after the Viking Raiders won the titles last week. I just thought they did pretty much a elongated squash, and it was just, it's not very interesting to me. Viking Raiders have been doing squash matches forever. Why don't we give them some kind of viable competitors and maybe set up a contender for the tag titles, even though there's really no legitimate tag teams on Raw right now, other than maybe a team I'll mention here in a few minutes, but they're not established enough quite yet. And also on that show, it was Andrade versus Sin Cara. I'm happy to see Andrade starting to get a little bit more of a push. He's been kind of lost in the shuffle since he was initially brought in up from NXT. Hope he gets more of a push here moving forward. And then this match I really didn't care about. Seth Rollins versus Humberto Carrillo. It was okay. Seth Rollins, the fans just are not into him anymore. They do not give 2 flying craps. His character is a dumpster fire right now, and it's really it's just better for him to go full heel here soon, because otherwise there's no repairing this character. It seems like it's going to be Roman Reigns from 2016, where it's you got to turn him heel at some point, because the fans just keep on turning on him, and it's not helping him at all. And Which brings me to a point. I gotta go off to a little bit of a sidebar here. He said something in a presser about Kenny Omega, saying if he wants to come out of the minor leagues and come up here for WrestleMania, or whether have a match with me or something along those lines. That was absolutely idiotic. I'm sorry. You don't do that, Seth. You just... I understand you're the company's golden boy right now, but at the same time, just don't say stuff like that. That's the reason why fans are absolutely turning against you, is you say stupid crap like that in public. Not smart. Not smart on Seth Rollins' part. And then he has this match coming up at Crown Jewel where it can't get stopped no matter what. They're literally just trying to make up for the terrible and absolutely horrific Hell in a Cell finish where it was absolutely a no finish stoppage, which it just completely baffles me why they do that inside Hell in a Cell where it's supposed to be a conclusive end to a feud. And it literally was not. I'm not going to go on anymore on that. But Monday Night Raw did have one other highlight other than the McIntyre, Ricochet, and Andrade and Sin Cara match. It was the Street Profits against the Good Brothers. The Street Profits were one of the most over acts in NXT. They're the former NXT Tag Team Champions. They have the solo cups and kind of the hip hop. They got the hip hop music coming out. Got a lot of swagger and got a lot of charisma. This team has potential to be really big stars and really big players in the tag team division. I'm happy they got a win on Monday Night Raw in their debut. They main evented in their debut, so hopefully that's the company thinking highly of them and hopefully giving them a push sometime here in the near future. Raw was as an overall show was okay, nothing too great. It was kind of a chore to get through, and also there was a Bobby Lashley Rusev angle. I forgot about that. Goodness gracious, that is atrocious. WWE cannot do love angles right. It's just not, and that's an infidelity angle, which makes it even worse, and it's just cringe. Which I guess if they're going for cringe, it works, but it doesn't work for me on that. Yeah, it brings me to Tuesday, where I got to catch NWA Powerrr, the third episode of the wrestling show, and I gotta say, I dig the old school feel of NWA Powerrr. I was able to catch the first episode, some like the tail end of it, and then saw most of the second episode, but then I got to watch a full episode of NWA Powerrr. And man, boy, do I like the way they set it up, the studio setting, the old school setup, the old school style interviews. And I don't know, it's just an enjoyable show, and it's just different. And it's very hard to be different in the wrestling world today, but man, they make a different show, and it's very entertaining. It makes the hour fly by. And I gotta say, the promos on this show absolutely destroy WWE right now. They feel legit. The promos feel legit, not overly scripted, but it just takes you back to the old school days. It just makes you feel good and kind of nostalgic, but also it's some new school stuff into it. And this show, it was fairly entertaining. A lot of promo work in this show, but it was really good promo work. And one of the players now in this new NWA Powerrr show on YouTube, it is Aaron Stevens, formerly known as Damian Sandow, and he's got this actor gimmick, his kind of a thespian gimmick, where he's kind of an actor, and he wants certain little things, people not looking into his eyes and such, and he's very entertaining and very interactive with the crowd, which not a lot of great mic workers, right, great promo guys really do. Like he will address the crowd if they're saying something, and he'll make a snarky comment back at it. I really enjoy his work on the mic also. And then during the show, it was Marty Bell versus Crystal Rose. They had an all right match, kind of a showcase for Marty Bell. And then Caleb Conley, he's got a bright future ahead of him, I think. I think he could be a player here within the next couple of years if NWA Powerrr continues to exist. And he's got a bright future, got a great athletic gimmick, and he's got a good look. And then also on this was kind of a build to a feud with the Dawsons and Eddie Kingston and Homicide. I enjoyed that part of it, kind of the Kingston and Homicide calling him out, and then the Dawsons just saying, hey, we'll fight anybody but you. And then Tim Storm lost his last chance title match against Nick Aldis during the first episode, to close out the first episode of NWA Powerrr. He's kind of down in the dumps. It looks like he's wanting to kind of quit or give it up. And during this third episode, Eli Drake comes out and tries to kind of pump him up and is like, oh, let's try to go get these tag team championships, maybe get an opportunity at these things. And it's pretty cool. It's kind of Eli Drake kind of leading the old man forward and trying to say, you still got it, man. You're still there. Make Mama Storm proud, as he'd like to say. But yeah, Tim Storm, 54-year-old professional wrestler. He still did a pretty good job against Nick Aldis in that first show for the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But it's been fun. And then one thing I got to say about Eli Drake. That dude is a star. That dude cuts. I got to say, he's got to be one of the best promo guys in wrestling right now. He's one of the best talkers. He's got a great look. Very good look. I know he had a short time with WWE when he was before he went to Impact. And I felt when I watched him on Impact for a short time that this dude is going to be a star. He's got great promo work, great look. He's got a good moveset also. He just feels like he's got that it factor, I think, to him. And he could be, I really think he'll be a player here sooner rather than later in NWA. Maybe not the World Championship, but one of the other titles that are involved with NWA. But he's been very fun to watch. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him. And he feel like he fits NWA. He fits the old style. He fits that old school type atmosphere. Eli Drake, you got to watch some of his promo works. If you wanted to watch back NWA Powerrr, it's all on YouTube. But yeah, he's very entertaining, very much of a joy to watch. Also late in this show, it was the Dawsons defeating Eli Drake and Tim Storm. It just kind of builds on the story of Tim Storm. It's going to be kind of a redemption tour to get his feet back under him, thinking to keep him motivated, to keep him believing in himself that he still has it at this age. And then it's setting up the Eddie Kingston Homicide versus the Dawsons tag team match here in the near future. But NWA Powerrr, you got to check it out if you're a wrestling fan and you want something different than the WWE and AEW. You don't want the glitz and glam, all the pyro and stuff, not nothing fancy. And the thing about this NWA show, no entrance music, it just feels old school. And if you're into the old school and maybe haven't seen the old school and kind of want to get an idea of what it is, I'd really recommend NWA Powerrr. And it's just so different than everything else in pro wrestling right now. Which moves me to the last thing I watched this week, which was AEW Dynamite. I thought it was an alright show. The show started pretty hot with that Lucha Brothers private party opener. Very fun to watch. A little clunky at times, but pretty enjoyable nonetheless. Dark Order and SCU. These first two matches were tag team tournament semifinal matches, which sets up to which the winners of those will go on to face each other next week on Wednesday on AEW Dynamite on TNT. But yeah, Lucha Brothers private party, very enjoyable match. Lucha Brothers getting the win there, and they'll move on to the semifinals. Very fun match with them. Kind of clunky at times, a little sloppy, but the crowd was very hot and very into that opener. And then Dark Order versus SCU. Really, in this match, the crowd was pretty much dead until Chris Jericho and his Inner Circle mates showed up later in the match. Most people were looking around, and then eventually they got back into the match. And then SCU was able to come up with a victory. SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky, and Frankie Kazarian. It was an enjoyable match. Nothing really great. It's just Dark Order. Dark Order's kind of, I don't know. I just don't think people are really responding to the gimmick. They got a good boo when they came out, but the crowd was just not into the match at all until really, really late. But it was the right move to get SCU in the finals along with the Lucha Brothers. There's going to be probably a pretty stellar match coming up next week on AEW Dynamite to crown the first ever AEW World Tag Team Champions. And next match on that card was Omega versus Joey Janela. This is kind of a callback from the AEW Dark show they have on YouTube. He had an unsanctioned match. It was supposedly really, really good. I'll probably have to go check that out here soon. But it was a callback to that. I really enjoyed that one, actually. It was a pretty hard-hitting match. But crowd was, of course, they were hot for this. They were hot for most everything on the night. And then later on, there was Chris Jericho just being just a a-hole, pretty much. Cody's trying to cut a promo to talk about his world title match coming up at Full Gear and the first of, I think, November 9th, if I'm correct. But he's trying to talk about that. But the Inner Circle, they have box seats, and they just keep blowing these air horns and stuff and just keep distracting Cody and crap. And then Jericho gets on the mic and such, and they kind of go back and forth, and Cody's like, oh, there's no invisible line here like there was in WWE, yada, yada, yada. And then Jericho's like, oh, there's 4 of us and just one of you. And then proceeding, well, after that, it was first to come out was Dustin, Cody's brother, then MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and then also a surprise, it was DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. They go up there. Jericho and his buddies go hide behind the glass. Cody ends up. They follow him up the stairs to the box seat, and Cody gets the scarf from MJF, wraps it around his hand, punch through the glass, and then they brawl into the concession stand area and such. And then security has to come out and escort the Cody Rhodes and DDP and Dustin and MJF all out. It was a fun little brawl, kind of bringing more emotion to the feud coming up, kind of try to get people more excited. And it's going to be a brawl. It's going to be a brawl, hard-fought match. Fans absolutely love Cody. I think he's just AEW symbol right now. He is the symbol for AEW, the standout guy for them. But I really enjoyed that brawl between those two kind of factions. And then it was Britt Baker, her return to her hometown in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania against Jamie Hayter. It was all right. Nothing special. Baker got her win back after she lost to Riho for the AEW World Championship, AEW Women's World Championship last week on AEW Dynamite. It was an all right match. Nothing really special. Just gave Britt Baker a win in her hometown. The fans were really into her. She still looks very green in the ring, but she doesn't have a whole lot of experience due to being at dental school. But just give her some TV time. Hopefully she'll get into the thing because she's set up to be a really big player moving forward in the AEW women's division. And that's one thing I've noticed. AEW's women's division is not very strong right now. Where AEW beats WWE is their tag team division. It's miles and miles ahead of WWE's tag team division currently. Their men's division, it's pretty good, I'll say that. I think they're about on even playing field with their men's division and WWE's, but the women's division is it's so lopsided right now. They don't have the talent level that WWE has in their women's division. Riho's their star right now. you have really three like viable people, three real contenders in that, two real contenders in that division right now that have been built up enough, and that's, well, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Rio's the champ, of course, and then where's Awesome Kong been? That's one person I've been wondering. I have not seen her yet on AEW shows, and they brought her out during Double or Nothing, but really haven't seen anything from her since. I'm just really curious to see what's going on with her, and I'd like to see her get on TV because she could be a very good help for the younger women in the AEW women's division. It could really help kind of put these young up-and-coming ladies, women, over. And then there was a post-match segment with Brandy and Jamie Hayter. I don't really know what was going on. It just felt weird. I didn't understand what was really going on. It was just kind of Brandy pointing, saying, "Don't touch me," or something like that. I don't know. That was just kind of an odd segment, but... And then the main event was Mox versus Pac. This kind of was built off of last week's tag match between Mox and Pac. Jon Moxley and Pac were tag team partners as they were taking on Hangman Page. And let me think. I'm trying to remember who they faced. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. Oh, of course. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page against Pac and Jon Moxley. Moxley it turned on Pac by the end of the match, so it set up this match for this week. It was a pretty enjoyable main event. I liked the match quite a bit, and I really liked the finish. Actually, the finish was smart. And I like that they do time limit finishes in AEW because they did TV time remaining on this. And they count down the TV time as it goes to 0. And then it went to 0 as Jon Moxley hits the Dirty Deeds, or the double-armed DDT, and pins Pac with less than 10 seconds left. And Pac kicks out at 2. But it was a fun match. I'd love to see more of it, really. But this keeps both guys strong. Fans don't like it, but this makes sense in the fact that it keeps both guys strong without giving these two guys a loss. And I thought this was a pretty solid show overall for AEW. I think they had a better show about a week or two ago. So I think they just need to build those stories with the tag teams and such, but I think they're getting there. They're getting there. They're just in their infancy of this company. They're starting to get. I think they're starting to get their footing, and I can see where they're going with certain stories, like the Lucha Brothers and SCU. That was set up from the get-go for the tag championships, but I just don't really understand the Omega Janela thing. Not the Omega Janela thing. It just feels like certain matches are getting thrown together every week, and there's not really any rhyme or reason to go along with them, if you get what I mean. But I thought it was a decent show. I would probably say that was the best show of the week. That was the best show of the week. AEW Dynamite, followed by NWA Powerrr, and then Monday Night Raw. It was an okay. It was nothing special this week, really, in wrestling. I think AEW keeps putting out solid outings, and WWE keeps on doing the same stupid stuff that they keep doing week in and week out. Nothing's different. They focus way too much on terrible angles, like the Rusev Bobby Lashley angle with Lana. That is absolutely stupid. And they continuously to keep doing squash matches on television with these guys that need to be viable competitors, like Aleister Black. It's not going to do him any good to have these squash matches for forever. And then Viking Raiders, they've already had 3,000 squash matches, and I don't know what they're doing with. Speaking of Viking Raiders, we've seen AOP promos these last few weeks, and I have no idea what they're doing. No idea what they're doing. I just don't get it with WWE right now. And they're kind of in flux because they switched, I think, executive director on SmackDown. They gave it to Bruce Pritchard instead of Eric Bischoff. And it's kind of, supposedly, the morale is down in WWE right now. Especially with SmackDown, because they've lost millions of viewers in the last... They lost over 1 million viewers from week 1 to week 2, and then it's been kind of a downhill trend. And I got to say this, but man, what are they doing with these? I just don't like the idea of putting combat sports competitors in the professional wrestling world. And this is mainly Tyson Fury. It's just absolutely stupid, in my opinion. What's the point? This is, I get it that it's this cash grab for crown jewel. They gotta make a big deal at the expense of Braun Strowman's whatever momentum he has left, because it's all, in all likelihood, he's gonna lose to Tyson Fury for some odd reason. And it's just, it's not what I want to see in my professional wrestling anymore. I don't care about these one-off appearances. And then hopefully Cain Velasquez, like he said, he signed a WWE contract. But please, I read this somewhere, but do not make this an MMA versus MMA fight, pro wrestling style. Because I watched Cain Velasquez on Raw throw working punches on Shelton Benjamin, and man, did they look awful. Just, let's have Cain Velasquez actually show his professional wrestling acumen, like his high-flying stuff that he's been doing in AAA and such, instead of having him have a MMA fight wrestling match with Brock Lesnar, which I just have a bad feeling it's going to be an absolute train wreck. But some enjoyable wrestling this week nonetheless, with AEW and NWA, mostly both NWA Powerrr and AEW Dynamite, putting on some decent matches, good shows, nothing like fantastic, but it's different from what WWE is producing, especially NWA Powerrr. But yeah, I definitely recommend you to go out, take time out of your schedule to see NWA Powerrr. It's aired